morning. Good morning. Good morning. Hey, Kelly, how are you?
I'm doing amazing. How are you?
I am good. I just literally saw a newsreel come in as we were starting this. I'll pop it up here. Apparently, CoStar just bought Matterport for $2 billion.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that's interesting to me because that's pretty cool technology. I think a lot of our agents use to do floor plans and the whole kind of virtual 3D imaging, right?
Mm-hmm. I've used it. I've used it,
Yeah.
especially when you have big houses. It's
Yeah.
really nice to give someone a self-guided tour.
CoStar's taking over the world, right?
They are. They are.
All right. Well, let's jump in. So, Fulton County, let's hit the numbers and then we can talk. Inventory went up to 951
Mm-hmm.
in Fulton County, a little bit up from last week, maybe around where it was 2 weeks ago. But I think inventory is such a big thing right now, and we're certainly seeing good inventory out there for agents to go sell. And I
Correct.
see that as such a positive. Um, Under contract, pretty healthy as it climbed into the spring market. Pendings is in the anytime it's in that 300 number, we're pretty strong under contract pending. And then 299 closings, not really the end of the month, but it certainly is held pretty strong in April. We
Mm-hmm.
started a little low and then 333, 289, 299. We didn't see those numbers before. So my
Right.
prediction is April's going to come in really strong once the month closes out. Are y'all feeling that there in Buckhead?
I would totally agree. We had a strong March. We're going to have a strong April. And I'm kind of equated to the weather we're experiencing. It's kind of like, spring has kind of been like on again, off again, because we're back to being a little chilly this morning. But I think that means we're going to have a prolonged spring market. And it's going to probably feel like a little bit of a longer season
Yeah.
before we get into the dry patch or a
Well,
slower patch.
I agree. I think you know, they try to average bell curves, and the bell curve for real estate's always January slow, climbs up to March, April. But this year it kind of felt like that bell curve shifted and it kind of took till March to even get going.
Mm-hmm.
And so if that's true, it'll push April, May, June should be really, really
It,
strong months.
and honestly, I would think probably even going into July, not knowing what the Fed may do come June, but usually we'll start seeing things taper as school gets closer, but I think we're going to hit it hard until the last minute.
Oh, I agree. I think we're gonna have a really good summer for real estate. All right, DeKalb County, if I can get over here, 532 on inventory, really strong. 97 under contract in the last 7 days. I mean, every week it's been
Mm-hmm.
pretty strong in DeKalb County. Pendings 206. Same comment. Look at these numbers compared to the previous months. That's that curve we're talking about. And then 180 closing in the last 7 days, 186 the previous 7 days, 170 the 7 days before that. These are really strong numbers. It makes me feel good about where we're headed. It makes me feel good that April's coming in strong. Just looking overall, we never know till the end of it, but
Right, right.
it sure looks like it on these numbers. And then Cobb County, oop, inventory peaking at 487, pretty high inventory for Cobb County, 97 active under contract. Um, yep, I mean, it looks pretty strong there. I love this coming soon number. There's a lot of
Yes.
coming soons out there. And then 213 on the pending is healthy for sure. And 185 closed in the last 7 days. I mean, look at these numbers in Cobb County: 197, 177, 185 last 7 days. I mean, it's everything we're saying, right? Like the bell curve's just now starting to get up there. Um, the spring market should feel in full swing. Yet I'm not sure every agent feels that. Why?
I think the inventory, well, first of all, it goes back to, have you put in the work? Have you done the activities to bring in the business that's starting to occur now? And it's really being ahead of it, initiating the conversations with your clients or potential clients. And I think that's, if those who have are feeling it. Those who maybe aren't feeling it, but they're putting the activities, it'll show up. It's just a matter of time. And then I do think inventory is still all-time low, maybe creeping up there. It's just never what it has been like a couple of years ago. So it could still feel a little quieter for some. The
Well, I
other
think,
thought I had with all of this, and this is kind of where I get a little excited, is I think this interest rate talk of like, oh, is the Fed going to cut? Not Fed, not going to cut. I think we've just accepted interest rates are going to be where they are, up and down as tiny as fraction. And so I think the consumer, I think agents, any kind of conversations we may have had around interest rates, I think we've kind of just paused on that and just say, all right, it's just time to buy, or it's just time to list. And so I think that's where we're starting to see that inventory increase a little bit, because there's no need to be waiting on the interest rate.
Mhm.
It's too unpredictable at the moment if it's ever going to really come down significant or not.
Yeah, I think you said two things there. I think they were really smart things. One, uh, we see 487 active inventory. We see 97 that went under contract in Cobb County. We see 185 that closed. But what you don't see is the activities the agents had to do to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe we're having to work harder now to get the same numbers. And I think that message, you need to hear that message is that I remember when I got into the industry in 1999, like you could put a mailer in the mailbox and get calls from it. And nowadays, you may have to do 4 mailers to get the same number of calls. Or I might be able to pick up the phone and call 10 people from my sphere of influence to get a good lead. I may need to call 20 today to get that good lead. And um, if you're in your office and you're talking to agents that are out there making it happen, maybe that's the question you need to be asking is, um, what are the numbers behind the number? Meaning, what are the activities you had to double down on to get these results? Because the truth is, the ones that are doubling down on it are actually getting exponentially greater results
Mm-hmm.
because everybody else is not. And then the second
Yep.
thing you said, I agree 100%. Hey, Rick,
Hey,
um, is I do believe the consumer sensitivity to interest rates is dissipating. I don't think it's gone, but it's dissipating. And I believe I made this comment last week at this state of the industry. I think us as an industry are so hyper focused on these interest rates, we're actually doing ourselves a disservice, meaning let it be what it is and just go sell some houses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rick,
typical
you got to, yeah,
consumer real the typical consumer wants consistency and predictability. They don't love and embrace chaos, but opportunity lives inside of chaos. The question is, are you doing what it takes to be the successful minority? Because just like the typical consumer, even in our industry, a lot of people slow down or lock up or wait to see, as opposed to throwing, darts and arrows at it. And it's that, back to Kelly's brilliance in saying, it's an activities based game. And while everybody's sort of fumbling around, are you really focused and shooting, at the bullseye? And so this chaos opportunity or the uncertainty is a real gift, but to the credit of at least the narrative that the Fed's thrown at us around, hey, we're probably not going to do much. There's some benefit in that too, psychologically. At least we know what the rules of the road are. Now we have to play to win and create strategies that get it done.
there you go.
And
And
and then we create the conversations on the main reasons people have always wanted to move, which is our bread and butter conversations of we always talk about the D's. So versus trying to be so brilliant thinking we can time interest rates or time the market, which none of us are that good.
Nobody's that good.
100%. You know, uh, Chartmasters came out with the first quarter stats last week or a week and a half ago. And we showed these at the State of the Industry, but this is really the big summary, right? By price range. And the month supply, I want to make sure we just hammer this conversation because I think the biggest question I get asked, and I think our agents are asked, is what's going to happen to pricing? That consumers want to know what's going to happen to pricing. And I wholeheartedly believe until these numbers get north of 4 months, we're not going to see big change in pricing. And the other thing I'm seeing in this number is this 500 to 900, 500 to 700 price range is hot right now. It is really hot. And you know, the 350 price range of 7 years ago is probably 500 to 700 these days. And you just need to be aware that if you're doing business in those price ranges, that my guess is like if you look at the percentage that went over asking price, the only two price ranges over 50% were 800 to $1 million. Went over asking price. That's crazy to me, but it's awareness of what's in the numbers, right? The other thing is, are we really seeing a lot more listings expire? Not specifically, but the higher end price points for sure. And you should be aware, all in all, almost 28% of all listings are still expiring, guys, which means one, if I'm an agent, I get excited about a listing. Pricing's still very important, as it will always be. Staging's really important, as it always will be. Marketing's really important, as it always will be. Yet, you know, I mean, it wasn't 2 years ago the ugly houses were selling, you know, not selling today. It still matters. And the value of the real estate agent positioning listings still matters, right?
Well, this is your value conversation. If 25 or 25 to 30% are fails, here's how I ensure victory. I mean, that's got to be your value proposition and narrative. And on the flip side, you've got to be able to illustrate, hey, as much as it looks like there's opportunity, both sides have a narrative and you have to get really good at it. Even working with buyers, you know, a 2-month inventory, that's nothing still. That's well below balance. It's still a seller's market, and a third still fail when they're unrepresented properly.
100%. All right. You know, we can pop interest rates up here, but I almost don't want to because I don't want you so focused on it. I think it's important to be aware of it, but I don't think it's doing us any good to be so focused watching this rate go up 0.1% or whatever. I think it's a safe bet to say the rates are going to be around 7%. And they're going to be around 7%, regardless of what the Fed does. I mean, it's just going to hover around 7% for quite a while, I believe. Would y'all agree or disagree with that statement?
I agree. I think it's going to hover around 7, maybe at a very brief moment, upper 6s. I think that's healthy. That's to some level. I like it just being, to Rick's point, I like it being stable. At least I know, and I'm making a decision on a level of stability. And so it doesn't change the desire if I wanted to move. It's just, I have to factor it in.
It speaks into the dissipation of people being concerned about it, because when we went from 3 to 7, everybody still held that thought process in their head. Are they ever going to come back down? I think that thought process is waning.
Yeah, I just ran through the middle, not counting rental property investments, 7 or 8 primaries. And if you said, do you wish you owned them today? I want to own them all. Like, when's the best time to buy real estate? Now and any time in the past. And my brain did not go to what interest rate I had when I acquired it. That's a secondary thought. And I love the, marry the house, date the rate, because it's going to evolve, and that's really so far down. It shouldn't be your prime unless it's affordability, and you've got to have that conversation. But find the perfect house. You'll love yourself more. That needs to be your narrative.
Yep. Just to hit this conversation again real quick. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and FHA did the real estate agent a solid. And I think the underlining message is they believe in us as an industry. But basically what they're saying is if the seller contributed money towards the buyer agent commission, that will not be counted against the buyer underwriting requirements around how much money the seller's allowed to help them assist. So for instance, if a buyer needed $5,000 in closing assistance plus the seller to pay the buyer agent commission, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and FHA all said they won't count that buyer agent commission towards their seller contributed costs that the underwriter allows. I can explain it again if you need me to, but here's all you need to know is the lenders are starting to evolve to our business practices to in our favor. And I think that's good. The other mention is VA has not. So VA, I assume, will follow suit, but there's about 10% of the mortgages out there that are not in line with that, but there's still 90% that are. So the ability is there. I think that's important to understand. And affordability is such a big conversation for us right now, because what goes into affordability? 100% affordability is the median income buying the median price house. In today's environment, the median income does not buy the median price house. It buys a fraction of the median price house, which is probably somewhere between 75 and 80 something percent. Well, what's calculated inside affordability is pricing, of course, and income, but the interest rate does affect affordability. And if the interest rates go down, affordability will go up. But we're not holding our breath on that. The other thing that we need to be aware of as an industry is homeownership. The insurance is a big factor in affordability. And as insurance starts to go up, it's going to raise debt service payments, which lowers affordability. And obviously, Georgia is not as bad as some of the other parts of the country, like Florida or the areas that get hit with a lot of hail, natural disasters, those kinds of things. Their insurance is almost making it unaffordable. Yet we need to be aware of it. It's just part of the equation around affordability. They're saying in here that they're expecting homeownership insurance rates to rise again this year. So that doesn't work in our favor. It's just something to be aware of. Make sense? Thoughts?
And yeah, we've been advising our clients that our buyers to actually shop your homeowner's insurance during the due diligence period instead of making a last minute afterthought for a multitude of reasons, because we found insurance companies are also asking for the property to be in certain conditions now, but certainly when it comes to the roof and maybe a few other things. So you want to do it early enough in the transaction to protect your buyer. So in case you do have to ask for a credit towards something, and plus they know, and then they know that they can afford it. So,
Yeah.
just a best practice.
My daughter called me, my payment went up. Yeah, it does. And that's where good counsel comes in is, if they're buying a house at a max amount of payment, and then they get hit with an insurance increase, or an adjusting interest rate or property values go up, I think they need your wise counsel to make sure you're setting expectations and giving them good, wise financial advice, um, because it's likely to happen, guys.
Just part of your value proposition to be a resource for all things good. You need to, we're in an age where you're going to have to shop almost every year because you're going to get the teaser year one rate and then they're going to escalate it and hope you're unmotivated to go shop it again and compare apples to apples. But having a professional alliance team behind you is a massive benefit and value proposition boost that your clients need to know about, experience, and then be excited to share, because that's part of the referral based ripple effect when you do the right thing and you're, again, the epicenter of all things they need.
There you go. All
Hey,
right, so
Brett.
yeah,
Hey, can I ask a quick question
only if
for
you show your
anybody to
face.
chime in? Just trying to I want to know just your perspective. The incidence of price reductions is down from last year. Last year was 49%. This year's 40%. How do you read into that?
All right, so you're talking about uh right here.
Yes, I was looking at the chart masters, but yeah, you can go off of that.
Yeah, so you're saying lesser price reduced today than a year ago.
Yep, it was 49.8 last year, and this year is 40.3%.
Yeah,
And just wondering, what do you think is the trend there?
I think we're getting back to normal. I think pricing a year ago still felt like, or actually, let me back up. Pricing 2 years ago felt like shooting fish in a barrel. People were just throwing some prices out there because everything was selling. And then last year was more about they probably started with shooting fish in a barrel and then had to have reality conversations. And I believe agents today are more professional in how they're pricing their properties. So we're not having to correct as much, um, because the expired percentage hasn't changed that much. So
Right.
the
The failed listing percentage is up 1%. So I guess it's like you said, it's not much. So you're saying the pricing and the normalcy of the interest rates has just allowed agents to list properties and not have as many price reductions as last year because it was a lot more volatile.
Yeah, I mean, how did you price property 2 years ago versus how you price property a year ago versus how you're pricing property now? You know, to Rick's point in the beginning, the consumer doesn't like chaos.
Right.
And pricing was very much chaos 2 years ago. It was get real, get right a year ago. And now we're pricing with some pretty straight line trend data. And I think that empowers agents to be better at pricing right now. And pricing's everything right now.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Consistency just makes pricing easier because you're not trying to prognosticate what the future is. And for the last number of years, we, like you said, Brett, we're shooting darts at a future that no one really knows, but we did know that it was only getting better and better and better and unrealistically better. And now we're leveling off.
Yeah. Which you might think that that's a negative number because it went down, but I actually think that's a positive number around our agent skill level around
Right.
price.
It's definitely positive.
Yeah.
More
Just a
consistent
perspective.
reality.
100%. All right, let me hit this article real quick. So what are the strategies to turn today's bad economic news, which I don't think it's bad economic news, into more deals? You know, some of these are tried and true, but let's just hit them real quick. It says prepare a equity checkup or annual report. You know, I don't know if you guys have money in the stock market or have a financial advisor, but I do. And I get a quarterly report from my guy and I look at it. But I also think about my guy every time I get it and go, is he doing good? Is he helping me build wealth? What's going on with my money? Da, 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 da. And I think about real estate, if we operated like consultants to wealth, you might send your top 100, your top 200, an equity report once a year on their property. And if you did that, I think it puts you in a different level of relationship, a different level of trust. And I think it's a really sound advice to be sending people equity reports or annual reports on their properties they own. I don't know that we do that as best practice today, but I would encourage us to do that as best practice in the future. I think it changes the level of value you bring to the table. It certainly opens up trust in relationship. What do y'all think?
I 1000% agree. I think there's certain things you just keep in a rhythm. Maybe happy home anniversary. Oh, by the way, another time of the year, here's the equity analysis. It should just be a predictable rhythm that they can expect from you. And I have the same respect. I have the same respect for when my financial advisor, my insurance person, all these people say, "Hey, do you want to do a review every single year?" And I go, "Yes." So it adds to the professionalism.
Yeah. You do the things
And
pros
you
do,
trust them.
you'll be
I
perceived
do.
a pro. Do the things pros do and you'll become a pro and people will see you as a pro. And that's what pros do. You know, they're paying attention when you're not. That's the gift of real consultative skills.
So would you do it once a year, twice a year, quarterly? I think at minimum, I'd start once a year.
Yeah.
I would say at least once a year because I don't know if enough changes. If we're at a steady appreciation level, there's not a dynamic to go, hey, it needs to be done quite as often. The only thing I would say, this is where you have a great mortgage partner, is they watch when the interest rates drop and if it makes sense to refi. And quite honestly, although I'm not the mortgage professional, I could sit there and make a note in my command and state, hey, they bought it at a 7.5% interest rate, and just go, hey, I think when it hits in the sixes, go maybe like low sixes, going, hey, I think we need to talk to our mortgage guy.
Yeah.
And I could even be that, even though I'm not the mortgage professional, if I keep my command notes really well. But I think it just adds to us being, we're building long-term relationships and not transactions.
Yeah. You just want a qualified touch plan. And it doesn't have to always be a full on report, to Brett's point. It could just be, hey, just wanted you to know I'm paying attention. Rates haven't fluctuated enough to make a move, but I'm paying attention. I'll let you know when they do. If there's anything I can do for you, let me know. I mean, that's a beautiful touch. It just shows, again, you're paying attention and you're their advocate.
Yeah. I mean, if you knew, let's say you just took the top 100 in your database, you knew what interest rate they had on their loan, you knew what their approximate payoff was on their balance of their loan, and then you were able to prepare a report for them and track it over time. That's immense value to a consumer. And we're repositioning value proposition right now as an industry. I think that would be huge. My wife showed me an email over the weekend. She still gets from the Lexus dealers she bought her car from that sends her, hey, your car's worth this today. Your car, and it's just a valuation of the vehicle, which we have no intention of selling. But was she intrigued by the value? Of course. Did she pay attention to the touch? Of course. It's part of the game, right? The next one is get back in touch with people. We hammer this all the time. 80-20 rule. They said focus 80% of your lead generation efforts on your sphere of influence and past clients. I don't care how you built your business will eventually land with a foundation around your sphere of influence, your database. And what does that look like? I did hear a top agent say, I'm going to stop spending money on internet lead generation and use that money to take my sphere of influence to lunch, coffee, or a drink. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad strategy. I would do both if you could afford to do both. But bottom line is you need to be doubling down on your database right now. And the previous conversation was a database conversation. This is a database conversation. I also would point out that artificial intelligence is going to help with this. So they're talking about likely AI. I know Command has been working on this for a little while. They're going to take your database and apply artificial intelligence to it to tell you who's most likely to make a move in the next 90 to 180 days. That's intelligent data, but it only works if you're organized with a database, you're in touch with your database, and it's not random contacts. It's people you have a relationship with, right? Agree, disagree?
Totally agree.
Agreed.
Yeah. Hyper focused on face-to-face lead gen and lead follow-up. To me, lead follow-up's kind of lost art. I guarantee you every agent has old leads that they've discarded or whatever. But if you really were specific and systematic and aggressive on lead follow-up, even when they're dead, people resurrect from the dead sometimes. And the leads follow-up is a great place to go back and drum up new business. Instead of going out looking for new business, you could go back to lead follow-up and probably get new business faster. Last, show your value to potential buyers. Talk about the NAR settlement with your clients. I got mixed emotions on this one, if I'm being honest, but I think the comment's more about being proactive around conversations instead of reactive. What do y'all think?
Just don't let fear drive their relationship or misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Informed people don't operate in fear because they recognize the opportunity because you helped them with it.
I'm choking.
And I
so y'all
think
may have to- yeah, go ahead.
with regarding to the lawsuits, it's I think at some point most everyone's curious, and so as long as we explain that it's bringing about a greater level of service to our clients, and or if we've always maintained it, it's a positive news story. I think there's a lot of people curious. I think it's okay to talk about it. We're taking the mystery out of it when we talk about it.
100%. And it gives you a chance to reposition value, right?
Mm-hmm.
Last one's eliminate the contingency sale. This isn't right for everybody, but it shouldn't be an obstacle to you selling a house these days. So there's a company we've looked at partnering with called Up Equity, and it allows people to actually go purchase before they sell, just similar to a bunch of these programs. But the reality is you don't need to pitch them to everybody. You just need to be aware of the tools in your tool belt, because in the market, especially as we're going into the hot season, contingencies are going to be a bad position to be in, but you don't have to be a contingency these days. There's so many programs. And I would leave it at that. What do you think what do we need to be focused on?
I think we need to play the long game, and that means we're going layers deep in our relationships that we have, past clients here, not being afraid to go make new face-to-face relationships, and playing the long game about it, meaning I'm going to get to know them and their needs and become that consultant. So when the time is right, I'm the first person they call because I've been consulting them all along the way. And I think not to be afraid. I think people are going to list their houses. I think the holding on to the cheap rates that they had, I don't think anyone's thinking about that as much anymore. So I think focus on the listings. I mean, it's a listing game right now, and I think there are people who want to list.
Continue shotgunning. In other words, keep blasting your value proposition and your marketing wherewithal and touting your capacity to serve people. At the same time, pull out your sniper rifle and make sure that you know who your 20% are in your database and give energy to that disproportionately, because, you know, the 80-20 rule is alive and well. It came up earlier in the conversation. you don't water the weeds. Stop doing things that don't create a ripple effect and a bigger return. Be really strategic in how you invest your time, your heart, your head, and your energy.
There you go. Happy Monday, guys.
Happy Monday.